classroom. In this video, I'm going to show you how to put together a simple journal, how to use it in your existing literacy program, and a variety of strategies for how to actually work with your students with these journals. So let me show you the journal first that I like to use. You could have students bring a journal from home, a composition book, but what I like about this particular journal is it's very small, which means it's not very intimidating to the students. Another thing I like about this particular format is when you look on the inside cover of this journal, you'll see that there's prompts, journal prompts that get the kids to think about when they're starting to write their journal entries. It also has lined sheets of paper on the inside for the students to write on. You can put as many or few as you like. And it just makes a nice little package that the kids can write in. They enjoy writing in it, and when they take it home, if they want to read, take their book home, they can just tuck it inside their book and take it home with them. Okay, now let me show you how to put this journal together. The first thing that you'll need to create the journal is you'll need some patterns that you can download from my website, Teaching Resources at lauracandler.com. You'll need the journal prompt page, and you'll also want to run off 3 or 4 sheets for each student of the lined paper and run it off front to back. What I like to do when I put this journal together is run off the prompts, put them face up. I'll put the lined paper right on top, fold it together to create the journal. And then because it's difficult to staple in the middle, you want to use a long reach stapler to put a staple right through the middle of the fold. If you don't have a long reach stapler, I want to share with you a little trick that I learned. That you can use a piece of carpet. I'm using a carpet square, but you could just use a piece of carpet on the floor for this. Open up a regular stapler and staple directly down into the fold. Quick, whoops, didn't go through. Let's try again. Technology, it always fails when you need it. But anyways, if it had stapled, it would staple through, and you would see that the staples come straight out the back, and you just use your fingers to close the staples together. So that's very effective. You might want to do it yourself instead of having your students do it, but it is a good alternative if you don't have a long reach stapler that you can use in your classroom or at your school. Okay, so now what can you do with this journal? First of all, when you're thinking about how you want to use your reading response journals, you want to think about whether you want to use one journal with a specific book. A few years ago, my students, we were studying as a whole class novel, Chasing Vermeer. So we made one reading response journal, and we used the journal throughout the whole book. It took a number of weeks. The problem with this method is that sometimes you don't fill up the whole journal and there are wasted pages. So the next time I created a journal, we made it more of a generic reading response journal, and we started a book, and each time we started a new book or literature circle, then they just put the title of the book on top of their response entry, so I knew exactly what book they were reading. So you can do it either way, but you just need to think about it in advance. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to plan exactly how many pages you want. Now, for what you can do with the response journals, you can use them for literature circles, you can use them in a basal reading program, you can use them for students writing in their literacy centers, you could use it with whole class novels. So let me go back to the example when we were doing Chasing Vermeer and show you some specific things that we did with this book. One thing you'll notice about this journal is that the front inside cover has prompts. These are fiction response prompts on the inside front cover. And then the back cover, if you're using nonfiction books, it has nonfiction response prompts. So it gives the kids some ideas about what to write about. One of the easiest things that you can do is to have the students just choose one of these fiction prompts or nonfiction prompts, depending on the book, and write a response within the pages. So they might write this one, describe your favorite part, tell about what happened in the story, copy down a quote from a character and tell why you think it's meaningful. There's lots of different ideas that they could choose from, or you could just assign one of them. So what we did with this is, as a class, we brainstormed ideas together and we started the list, but throughout the book, as the students were reading, they would continue to add character traits, and it was kind of a focus of our discussion throughout the book, how their characters were developing. Another thing that we did with Chasing Vermeer, even though it was a whole class novel, we had small group discussions each week so that the kids could really get into more of a small group setting to discuss what was going on in the book. They really enjoyed that. So before we would have our discussion, I would post a question for them to think about that related to what we had been reading. This particular one, the question is, what is art? And as you can see, this particular response from the beginning is what she was writing before the meeting started, and you can see she didn't really have much to say on the topic of what is art. But the topic of what is art is something that is dealt with in the book, Chasing Vermeer. So there was a lot of things that the different people in the discussion group had to say. So after the meeting, she went back to her desk and she wrote some of her new ideas about what art means. So you can see how just having a discussion really helps develops the students' thinking on a particular topic. Another way that we used it was just little quick comprehension quizzes. So this says quick quiz, and it's just numbered and has some short answers. Sometimes when the students would come back from reading an assignment, I just put a few comprehension questions to make sure they were reading. Another activity that's just particular to this particular book, this was a mystery book, and one thing that's neat about Chasing Vermeer is there are a lot of coincidences that happen throughout the book. And the kids start noticing these coincidences, and they were talking about them, so I said, why don't we just write a list of all the coincidences that happen in this book and see if maybe we can make some predictions about how the mystery is going to be solved. So they really enjoyed writing as these unusual things were happening and then discussing it in the discussion groups. This was a particular free response where the student had chosen one of the journal entries. There's lots of different things that you can do. You might also notice in here that there's some of the pages have a check plus or a check. That was just my quick assessment when I would take the journals up and read them periodically. Sometimes I would write comments, sometimes I just put a check or a check plus or a check minus, and then talk with the student about what they needed to improve on their journal entry. These are some of the ways that I've used this reading response journal in my classroom, using the journal with one particular book or a more generic way where you have multiple books. Some of the same topics can be used. And I'm sure that you can think of lots of ways that you can use this journal in your own classroom. And if you do, I invite you to share with me. Please join me on Facebook at facebook.com/teaching resources and share your great ideas with the rest of us.